Hi there. So it's Matthew, and I'm continuing the series, and today's video is on linked skills. So we're looking at how we can repeat uh, vocabulary and phrases that we're learning, but in different skills. So with linked skills, you see in our big chart, we are looking at an activity that stretches across different strands. So what is a linked skills activity? So we've got three meaning focused activities, or they could even be message focused activities. They're usually about communication though, so communication through reading, writing, speaking, listening. And they need to have the same topic and repeat language features. So a really good linked skills activity should be interesting, and it has vocabulary and phrases that are recurring in all three activities. And it should have one productive activity. So there are often two productive activities, but for example, if the third activity is a productive activity, that means that the first or second one also must be a productive activity. That means we usually don't want two receptive activities following each other. So I'll give several examples of linked skills activities. Linked skills activities that you could do if you're a teacher of a group of students, or three examples of how to do it on your own if you're learning on your own. And so what else makes a good linked skills activity? If there's communication with another person, such as you speaking to another person about what you read, for example, then there's some negotiation of meaning, as in you stop and you have to explain what you mean. So the other person didn't understand something about what you're talking about. They're asking for clarification. So if you're a teacher, this happens in activities a lot where the students ask what a word means and then the other student explains what the word means. So that's a good example of students learning through the activity. All right, so let's look at some examples. So if we're going to learn on our own, so we could start off with a reading activity. Now, the reading activity can be from our extensive reading or intensive reading. The intensive reading shouldn't be too difficult, though. Afterwards, we use this topic in our writing. So we write about what we read. So you take the read and write activity, which in fact is part of a linked skills activity. It's two activities. For a linked skills activity, you need three. So you read about it, write about it, and then the same thing that you used with the writing, you go and speak. So you could prepare um, a YouTube video, for example, and you talk about what you read, what you wrote about. That's going to practice the same topic, same ideas, same vocabulary. Now, you could also start with a listening. So you spend time with the read and listen activity or a transcription activity. So that text that you read, or sorry, that text that you listen to will be about a topic. And then you go and you do a speaking activity about what you listen to, and then you do a writing activity about what you listen to. So that's going to repeat that same those same the same words. So for example, if you do the reading activity, if it's intensive reading, you'll be covering new vocabulary there. And then this gives you an opportunity to practice that in a productive way. It's perfectly fine if you use extensive reading, of course. Now, let's look at, we could do this with just productive skills. You could do a writing, speaking, writing, or you could do a speaking, writing, speaking. So after a general writing activity, whatever you wrote about, you go and you speak to someone. So the writing activity is preparation for the speaking. And then you could take maybe this writing, maybe this is a teacher that you're meeting. So you write in order to prepare to speak. Then you speak and get speaking practice. The teacher marks that activity, writes feedback on it. Then you take that for a repeated writing activity and you practice writing that text for fluency based on the feedback you got from the writing. Now, if you're a teacher and you're teaching a class of students, you could, the basis of this is a reading. So you take that reading and you prepare them for the reading by giving them a speaking. So the reading text is about homework. So students do a pair work activity, you give them some ideas on a piece of paper, and it has some concepts or ideas from the text. Students need to rank them and give each other reasons. So homework, it could be tips for doing homework maybe. And then you give the students a list of tips for doing homework. And students think if they're good tips or like the most useful tip, the least useful tip, students rank those, then they share their ideas with each other and find out if someone else has the same idea. And then when they read the first time, they read to see if how they ranked those ideas. Was that the same as what the text suggested? Students can help each other understand the text as well. And then that follows up with students making a poster with homework tips that will be presented on the wall. Another example is you have a text, a reading text on multitasking. So you introduce this to the class. You find a video on multitasking, and it's relatively short. You give that to the students so they read it, and you could ask them a few questions to focus on while they watch the video. They could watch it a few times, and then you could give students a list of review phrases, as in vocabulary that will be in the reading. They have to tell each other what they mean, and they have to tell each other what the vocabulary has to do with multitasking. That vocabulary would be better if it's also in the video. So it could include something like doing two things at once. This starts with the reading. So you can see by now that it's easiest to make a linked skills activity with a reading or listening text. And the reading or listening text will often be in the middle, either the beginning or in the middle. So the final example is students read a short text, and then they write, and the writing is to prepare for speaking. Those are just some examples of linked skills activities. When you watch the video on how to plan a scheme of work, that video will be about how to... Okay, so when you watch the video on how to plan a scheme of work, you will see many ideas for how to integrate linked skills activities into a language course or a self-study program. They're very easy to plan. You just need a text, as in a reading or listening text. And then it's easy to plan speaking and writing around those activities. Another benefit of linked skills activities is they're very good for repeating, lots of repetition. That's what we need for language learning. If you have a group of students, they're going to talk about the language used in the activity as in the vocabulary. And that's an indication that a lot of magic is happening in the brain, as in they're negotiating meaning. Once you've done this a few times, you'll see how easy it is to link several activities up, and you just need really one activity really. And often it's as simple as adding an activity before and adding an activity after a receptive skills activity like listening or reading.